Hello again, welcome back to Procurement and Supply Chain Live. I'm Marcus Law and I'm joined by Jan Wüllenweber from McKinsey & Company. Jan, how are you?
Thank you. All good, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, thanks for coming on. You've just come off stage one, your talk, New Currencies in Procurement. Tell me about that.
Yeah, this is really about how procurement leaders these days need to address different value pools, right? In the past, it was very much about savings, net savings in the P&L, and now it's other dimensions, CO2, supply structures, and these kind of things.
Absolutely. So one of the things you talked about is win-wins in procurement, where you can reduce costs and also CO2 emissions. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, this is the tricky trade-off discussions that you need to actually deal with. And we've seen it in the past that it's important that you, on the one side, find, of course, ideas, right? Green steel is a typical example. Sometimes it's cheaper and it saves CO2. But the key thing behind this is you as procurement need to develop equations or formulas, how to translate CO2 improvements into US dollars or euros or whatever the currency is. And that's the important element to get started with.
Absolutely. Another thing you talked about was the royal flush of procurement, I think. Tell me about that. What do you mean by that?
The reason why we talk about currencies is that we see other value dimensions become more important than just, so to say, the monetary improvements. And it's a little bit like if you go into the casino, where do you actually place your bets? On which of the new currencies you actually get how much impact? And that's one of the questions procurement leaders need to think about. Should I focus my organization on, for example, the CO2 currency, or more the currency of healthier supply structures, or indeed more short-term risk, right? And make sure I'm prepared for potential shocks in the supply chain. That's a little bit where you need to see where you place your cards.
So what sort of decisions should leaders be making then when it comes to that decision? What best to focus on first, I suppose?
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's a little bit depending on the time. I think structurally over the next 2 years, 1 to 3 years, we expect that CO2 is the key currency that will be added, simply because it is so relevant in many industries. However, short term, I think rethinking your supply base, where do I actually have alternatives for single source situations? Where do I potentially have shorter local alternative suppliers versus the global ones, which may be more efficient from a total cost? So that's why also the decision criteria changed, right? In the past, it was easy. You decided on total cost of ownership, right? What was the total cost? Now you actually have other considerations. Maybe you invest a bit more, but therefore you have a better safety net in case something goes wrong.
Absolutely. So another thing you said was about procurement needing to rebalance itself. How do you think procurement has come out of balance, I suppose?
Yeah, I think what I mean with rebalance is less about out of balance, but expanding the type of profiles you need. I think there has been many organizations who meanwhile understood that there's these different value pools, and for that you need different people. You need Scrum Masters in IT. You need people who understand the solutions market. There's people you need to understand market indices, contracting, right? And because of this, you need to have a much more balanced portfolio of buyers in your supply base, understanding what are the real new value dimensions and how can I actually deal with those and address those beyond just negotiating.
So that sort of moves on to strategic buyers, which I know is another thing you discussed. Why are strategic buyers so important?
Yeah, I always struggle a bit with the term because a strategic buyer in reality is not only working on strategic topics. A strategic buyer really has different value dimensions. Some are creative, some are more experts, some are more really market indices managers. And I think in the future, we need to actually look at not one size fits all in terms of describing the role of a buyer, but understanding there's different strengths and in terms of strengths-based development, some people are just very good in understanding the markets and others are better on analytics. And let's call it out and make sure we develop people in that direction.
Absolutely. Well, we're just coming towards the end of our second day here at the QE2 Centre. What have you made of the event so far?
No, it's very impressive. Great to see the lineup of speakers, and of course the location here in the middle of London is also a very nice spot that you've chosen. So overall, very well done, and thanks for organizing it.
Oh, thank you for coming on. Yeah, really appreciate it. If you missed Jan's talk, you can catch it on demand through the app on Umbrella. And thanks again for tuning in, and speak to you soon.